Hello and welcome to the Coach's Cup. I am Coach Judith Fender, one of the amazing coaches with the No BS weight loss program.
And I am Sonya Green from Sonya Green Coaching.
And today's podcast, we're going to talk about some real life circumstances that at some point, all of us, like to Sonya's point, either you're going to hear or a loved one is going to hear. And that is, Sonya, you've recently had some medical circumstances, and we wanted to talk and share with our listeners about mindset and just kind of what you're going through and how you are approaching these days that you're going through.
Yeah, I want to be clear, like I don't want this to be just an episode where Sonya talks about her potential illness. I want to talk about how we can use this in a positive way. And I don't mind giving the details. Back in the summer, my father was diagnosed with Huntington's disease, which is genetic. And that means that there is a 50-50 chance that I will also have it. And so a couple of weeks ago, I was tested and I'll get my results in mid-December. And I've had tons of thoughts about it, folks.
Yeah.
I have some symptoms that could be already showing an onset, or they could be something else. We don't know.
Okay. So for our listeners, let's just take a minute here. Huntington's, if you want to give us a brief overview of what Huntington's
Yeah,
is.
don't Google it, folks. It's not pleasant, but it is a neurological disease. And most people, if they have it at the onset of symptoms, they have about 15-ish years, and there's a decline in that time of cognitive functioning. It affects different people different ways. There's usually a lot of depression that is associated with it. But not always, but that is one of the big indicators. But there is a loss of speech, a loss of cognitive function. It can be very unpleasant. And so my father so I've learned a lot about genetics and genetic codes and repeats and things like that. He is on the intermediate level and was in his late 60s or early 70s before he ever developed any symptoms at all. And then we just got the diagnosis. He's just turned 76. But, probably it's something with him. It's very slow progression. And it happened very late in life. Unfortunately, one of the things that we've learned is that if it's passed down from the father, it's usually quite a bit worse than the child. So not always, but generally, if you get it from your father, then your level is going to be quite a bit higher, which would mean onset would be earlier. And I am in my early 50s. So that tells you a little bit about it. If it's the other thing that, that I'm thinking about in all of this is I have 3 children.
Right.
And so there's a 50% chance if I have it, then there's a 50% chance that each of them would have it. Being passed down from the mother, it doesn't necessarily intensify. So if they had it, it may or may not be worse than if I had it.
Okay.
So lots of things to think about. Lots of things going through my mind over the last few weeks.
Right. And so this has been a process from figuring out your dad's diagnosis, right, researching about Huntington's for yourself, making the decision, right? So I'm assuming when he got a diagnosis, they said you need to get, they offered, or did you decide?
That's interesting because they actually my husband and I talked about it, and we decided immediately that we wanted to know. But really and we're very lucky living close to Nashville. Vanderbilt has one of, I think, only 9 Huntington's disease clinics in the country. So we're very lucky that we have this kind of access. But they had no suggestions one way or another. They said, you may want to know, you may not want to know. It's fine with us either way.
Okay. So I just want to point out here, like that right there, making a decision to know, because this is elective, right?
Yes.
And taking control of what you can control. Knowledge.
Yes.
You probably had a thought like, knowledge is power. I want to know.
That is who I am. I know some people have problems making decisions. That has never been my problem. Like when I was pregnant, there was no question. I wanted to know the sex or the gender. I want to know as much as I can.
Right.
And so it wasn't even a question. Will my children, if I test negative, then there's no chance that they will have it. So that immediately cuts, they don't have to worry about it. They wouldn't have to get tested. But when will they decide to get tested, or will they decide to get tested? That's totally up to them, how they decide to do that. But it is, yeah, to your point, that is a decision I could make quickly, easily. I know I'm going to find out, and I'm going to deal with whatever the results are.
And it's not lost on me thinking about, here we are coaches, and how we speak about living life in the 50-50. And here you are with a medical diagnosis, living in uncertainty of the 50-50.
Yeah.
50-50.
The literal 50-50.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
absolutely. I've thought about that several times. But and I will tell you, I have had to really think about myself in a different way than I usually do. It's hard to articulate this, but I am a goal-driven achiever of things. And so one of the biggest fears that has come up for me along this way is what control am I going to be able to take in the situation? And so there are moments that I have set aside where I have had to say, okay, this is me feeling the fear, feeling the sadness, feeling the uncertainty, and I just have to allow myself these moments.
Right. This is your human experience.
Yes. Yes. And I have to feel them, and I have to acknowledge them, but I don't allow myself to ruminate in them. There's a difference. And I think this is really important for people, because we talked last week about how we can ruminate in our past and how comfortable that is. You always say it's familiar, and that's what it is. It's familiar to let myself sit in fear and think of all of the limits that could happen. I don't do that, but I do allow myself the space to be sad. Because I am my dad's caretaker. Not that he needs constant care. He lives, he doesn't need constant care at all. But I'm an only child, so I am the person who will see him through this journey. There's no doubt that he has it. And I will be the person seeing him through this journey. And there's some sadness. There's some fear of what to expect. And so obviously there's that about me too. And I just have to allow myself the space to feel that, but at the same time, know when I'm slipping from the experiencing it in the moment to ruminating
Right.
in
What's
the,
productive?
yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
So you're a few weeks out, maybe when this podcast drops. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
In the
it'll be
time.
mid-December when I get my diagnosis. And so
I'm
it'll probably
curious,
drop about the same time.
why does it take so long to get a diagnosis? Or I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like they have to grow it. I don't know.
So I don't pretend to know either. They said they would probably have the results in a couple of weeks, but we have the holidays. We have, lots of, and I'm not the only person at the clinic either. So, I guess that's just how long they want to make sure they make the appointment so that when you come back, the results are in.
Sure. Okay.
So I think that's what the whole month thing is about more than anything.
Mhm.
They may already have them. I don't know.
Right.
But I like having this time because it has allowed me the space to
Mhm.
think about how I'm going to show up regardless of the
Mhm.
diagnosis. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, or maybe not so obviously, either way, it's still going to play a role in my life because it's
Yes.
playing a role in my dad's life.
Right.
So I can move forward knowing it's just he's the one that I get to take care of.
Mhm.
Or I can think about, okay, if we're having these at the same time,
Mhm.
I'm going to kind of have to make plans for possibly both of us dealing with the same things at the same time. So it's a lot to consider, but the thing that I have decided is that it's not going to define who I am regardless.
Yeah.
And that's a decision I've made. Now, that doesn't mean it's made forever. I'm going to have to come back to that and recommit to that decision.
Because there will be times throughout this process, no matter what, where your brain is going to want to define. It's going to want to, you're going to, as you say, you get a diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
as your abilities change or circumstances with your health changes, your brain will want to naturally, as it should, but
Yeah.
again, normalizing that this is not a problem. It's just good to know
Yeah.
you've got a plan.
Yeah. And thinking about future focus, I have a plan for my health. I also have a plan for my future. I, you know, I have just retired from teaching and am getting to work with so many more women, help so many more women drop their imposter syndrome, become more confident women. Just because I get this diagnosis doesn't mean that I have to drop all of that and
Yeah.
sit and, oh, well, now I have Huntington's disease. I can't move forward because I might not be able to do this, or I might not. I'm not doing any of that.
Mm.
Regardless of the diagnosis, my ability to help women today and for the next several years, we don't even know how long, is unchanged.
Mm. I love that. Thinking about like even considering for the version of you that decided to create this, to become a life coach,
Mhm.
to create a course, to make these decisions, like she had your back.
Mhm.
This is a really solid um, thank you moment
Yes. No,
for
I have.
your past self that had a plan and saw a vision moving forward. And either way, you're moving forward with the goal you set for yourself years ago.
You mentioned last week about being uh, the person who shows what's possible. I don't remember what we were specifically talking about, but that's who I can be too. I can be the person who shows people you get a life-changing diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
and you still stay on your path and move forward. You adjust, as no doubt I will have to adjust along the way if it's a positive diagnosis. But either way, I'm going to move forward and I have a plan, and I might be the example of what's possible with Huntington's disease.
Wow. Wow. Just kind of got a little emotional there on you. Like,
I do too sometimes. I have had I've had several emotional moments, and that's okay, right?
yeah, 100%.
Given some time for that.
You kind of like adopted, like, you didn't say these words, but I was thinking in coaching terms, like, this changes nothing.
Right.
This changes nothing. I'm still moving forward. I'm still me. I still have goals. I still have capability. I still have qualifications. I still have value to add, value to give, value to offer. This changes nothing.
And listen, folks, if you're listening to this right now, when a diagnosis comes to you or your family or whatever, you have those two options. You can say, this changes nothing, or you can say, this changes everything.
And and
you get to decide.
There will be decisions that change everything, but you get to control and what direction you may and what you make it mean.
Yes, exactly. It's that thing that we talked about last week of which fact we're going to accept and move forward with. There are diagnoses that happen every day that are life changing, life altering, but it doesn't mean that you have to drop everything and let yourself be defined by it.
Right. You can choose. I was thinking of like how to manage your mind. Like, there will be moments where you may want to be really intentional and journaling about your worst fear, letting your brain have some equal airtime on that. And then journaling about, the possibilities and how you can move forward.
I think those are real moments of discovery. And that's the thing that I know is that journaling will be key as I move through this, regardless of what we find out. Journaling is the key because, those moments where you allow your fears to be written down, it's very likely that's the first time you ever really see what those fears are, or at least for me, because when I write it down, it looks completely different than when it's just running amok through my brain.
Because you have that perspective to be right now in this moment.
Yes.
Here's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I see where my brain is going.
Yeah. And that can be very helpful.
100%. So I guess to wrap this up, I think you said it really well about, offering to our listeners about, somewhere in your life, what's going on. It may not be a medical diagnosis, or maybe it is. Maybe it's, maybe it's diabetes, maybe it's fatty liver. I can't think of any other cancer, things.
Dementia, Alzheimer's.
There you go. Oh, mercy. My brain did think about that, although while you were talking, thinking about, well, anyway, that's for another time. And how to apply and consider for yourself and how you're making space for your human existence, no matter what you're learning about you in your medical health or your financial situation or whatever. Making space.
Yeah. And deciding that you are going to make decisions. You're not going to allow life to happen to you. You're going to make decisions.
I'm thinking non-emotional decisions.
Yeah, right.
Like, let me clarify, like qualify that.
That's good point.
Prefrontal cortex thinking.
Yes.
And we want to be journaling that fearful, because we might want to make fearful decisions. Like, I don't know, what would a fearful decision be?
To just quit everything and just kind of lay on the couch and zone out, and wait for it. I have known people who have waited for whatever their medical condition was to take them. And you know what? It usually does. more
Mm,
quickly and more. I want to be careful how I say this, but mindset is critical. When I was a freshman in high school, my mother received a cancer diagnosis, and it was a type of cancer that there's still no cure for.
mm,
And in that moment, she decided, I can research, I can figure out the best way to handle this.
mhm.
And she did that work. And we were very lucky that the tumor never progressed. They got it all, they took it out, and that was really the end of it. What could have been, it if she had decided, well, I have this diagnosis and
Right.
it's going to kill
Not
me,
curable. Yeah.
then, I think that we would probably looked at a very different outcome.
Mm.
And I don't mean to say that you always get that choice. If I have a positive diagnosis, I do have, this is what's going to happen at some point. But that doesn't mean that's the part that I let define me.
Yeah.
I take control of what I can.
100%. What's in your control, right? Because and here's the thing too, it's just the power of knowledge, because you could choose
Yes.
not to know. And many of us could be walking around not knowing anything about if
And
we're
that's
not
okay too.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. If my children choose not to find out or not to find out right now, that's fine. That's their decision.
Yep.
And I'll trust that that's the best decision for them. All right. So a little heavier topic, but still, if
You're
you are
saying it with
looking,
a smile on your face. I just want to say, like,
well, yeah,
you know, that there's a confidence and an awareness and compassion for yourself that I just see in you and believe in you. And regardless, we're all here for you.
I'll tell you what, this is a little, I'm a little on the fence about whether I should say this or not, but
Oh,
the
no.
truth of the matter is I could be, hit by a truck tomorrow.
Right. I mean, that's 100%.
So why am I going to spend so much time worrying what the next 15 years are going to look like when I don't know that I have 15 hours?
Right.
And I don't mean that to sound crass or I can't think of the word here.
Well, it's just like any other kind of planning that we do. We make plans for the best, and then life happens.
Yes,
Figure it out along the way, and you're going to make the
right.
most informed, educated decisions you can make for yourself. Live your best life, and deal with what comes on a daily basis.
That's right. And until then, I'm going to coach my face off because I have lots of,
Wisdom.
and yes, and the ability to help women build their confidence. And I get a high off of helping women. And I'm going to keep doing that. That's going to keep feeding my soul. And that's my purpose. So if you're looking for coaching, you can find me at sonyagreencoaching.com
And
or on
oh,
Instagram. Sorry, I just forgot that. Sonya_green coaching on Instagram.
and you can find me coaching for No BS on the No BS weight loss program with Corinne Crabtree, or you can find me on Instagram, just Judy, JUSTJUDIE.
And don't forget about our fabulous Facebook page. We would love to hear your comments, how you have worked through your own diagnosis for yourself or a loved one. Any wisdom that you have to drop, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.